Is it worth it? That question can be answered only by one person, and that is you. The mind, the same mind is the object, the means of your pleasure and pain, or the object of your liberation. It's not that you will borrow somebody's mind. It's your mind.
Motivation leads to death of a person. How could I differentiate between craziness and motivation?
So, even the best can say, no. Even the people who have the odds stacked against them can come out and beat those odds.
In the last part, we sort of went through the younger generation and their aspirations about FOMO, YOLO, and these different theories that are coming up in the Indian culture. Right? Now, the last bit where we talked about was with a reference to climbing a mountain, right? Where we signify climbing a mountain as choosing your own pain. But also, they say that every dead body on Mount Everest once was a motivated soul. Now, if motivation leads to death of a person, how could I differentiate between craziness and motivation, or what could be the level of motivation? Right? Maybe, let's say, a 10-year period of me being 20 years old to me being 30 years old, I work off, right? I just work 16 hours a day. But when I turn 32 or so, when I get the money I wanted, I have some health complications which are now not curable. Was that work which I do worth it? Something like that. Would I have, found out my work-life balance, not, worked that much and maybe got money 5, 6 years later, but I had my own. So, what is that? What is the motivation which we take? Because online we find motivation like, you need to work 24 hours and always be on that caffeinated mind, crazy thing. But that won't go for long. Okay. So what is your take on it from a perspective of a youth mindset?
No, it is a very valid question that a lot of people have indeed got burnt out or hurt pursuing what they wanted. With, that level of maniacal focus. Most people who are extremely successful, I'm talking wildly successful, are not very normal social people. You can safely say that they are eccentric in a way, right? So there is that. Keep that as one extreme. The other is, I'm going to work as hard as I can. And I'm going to take whatever success I get happily. That is this side. And I'm talking only about motivated people. This, so you understand. So you have two guardrails. Everyone falls in between. Okay? So when I started the yoga course, my first view was, I want to be top of the class. I can still not touch my feet without bending my knees, but I'm going to be able to do courses which nobody can do within 6 months, and I'm going to do whatever it takes. That was how I viewed it. Eventually, I said, it is the journey that makes me the most happy. Somewhere along the line, it dawned on me that it's the journey that made me the most happy. It was not achieving a pose only, or achieving a certain breadth, or achieving a certain flexibility. Bring that into what you do. What do you enjoy the most between when you start and when you're at point of finish? Let us say your goal was to build a startup and sell it for $1 billion. You built the startup, you sold it for $1 billion. Let's take the example that you gave, where now I have a certain set of complications which I'm going to deal with, health-wise complications forever. Is it worth it? That question can be answered only by one person, and that is you. Many will say, I will take the risk of getting diabetes at 30. If I worth $1 billion, then I will do. Many will say, no, I don't want that. Many will say, I don't know what is going to happen. I'm going to work hard. I have this goal. Let's see what happens. So there are many people in all buckets. Eventually, what will happen, in my view, is that if you don't have, or I'll spin it in a positive way, if you have an aspect of your self in what and how things matter, then your perspective on everything becomes very different. Look at the case of Arjuna. Supreme confidence, greatest warrior, unbeatable, went all the way in every war, did whatever was expected of him, achieved outlandish results. But when it came to the greatest war, to prove that he was the greatest of all time, before, after, he said, no, I don't want to do it. I mean, he needed God to tell him to do it. So, even the best can say, no. Even the people who have the odds stacked against them can come out and beat those odds. So the journey is actually individual. There are many people who clone Warren Buffett's style of investment. There are many people who have achieved extraordinary results. There are many people who have stopped halfway saying, I cannot have this kind of patience. I need to sell, buy, do something. It's his style of investing was to buy a company and you just wait. The money is made in the waiting, as he famously said, he and Charlie Munger said. Many people did that, made money. Many people didn't do it, made reasonable money. So your question is, am I going to build a startup and sell it for $1 billion? Is the health risk worth it? The only person who can answer that is you. The only person who can answer whether I want to try for 5 years or 7 years or 9 years or 10 years is you. Nobody else will know your struggle more than you do. Even your best friend, even your co-founder, even your spouse, your girlfriend, they will not understand your struggle. That is why, as much as all these podcasts, all these are points of reference, eventually the one that is going to give you the answer is yourself. So always be connected there. Those who have that, in my view, happier, more successful, more fulfilled than anybody else. To me, that is more powerful. I would rather be somebody who I believe has tried my best at all times. But the regret of not trying my best is worse than the regret of success, not achieving success. So for me, my point of reference is different. If I have a great amount of talent in a particular area and I have not utilized it, I will feel more unhappy than if I had utilized half my talent and then hit a financial or a success goal that many people think this way. It is my yardstick that matters. That's why I always say the journey is individual, journey is individual. When you get into that path, you are automatically on the path of spirituality. Spirituality is your path, your direction, your devata, your deity, your higher power, how you connect. It is individual, but it encompasses everything. Aham Brahmasmi. Everything is within me, but it is my journey. I am the sum total, but I also have my own part. So to me, that was a beautiful way of merging things across. And I find great happiness in that. I don't want to compare myself with anyone. At the same time, I also don't want to feel like I'm incomparable. Big difference. I'm not better than anyone. I'm not worse than anyone. But at the same time, I have certain things I want to do. I want to learn from things I see. Learn from things meaning what to do, what not to do, how to do, how not to do. I'm learning also. But the journey is individual. I am going to have that as my yardstick than anything else. That came to me through yoga. That came to me through the teachings of Patanjali. There are parts in the Yoga Sutra which teach you about this. The mind, the same mind is the object, the means of your pleasure and pain, or the object of your liberation. It's not that you will borrow somebody's mind. It's your mind. Towards pain, towards liberation, towards success, towards failure, everything is in your mind. So the journey is individual. Only person who can truly answer that point of reference is you.
But when we say that the answer lies within myself, right? If today, or let's say even before 2 3 years, someone would have asked me what I want to do, I was clueless. Right? And later on, I found out that I loved being clueless because the opportunities were wider. If I knew what I want to do, maybe I would not have explored, maybe let's say podcasting. I would not have explored doing a startup. I wouldn't have explored learning. So, there are people in my age group who feel that being clueless is really bad. What does it tell that, okay, how should they go about it? Because being clueless, intrigues a feeling of fear within them.
Right.
Oh my God, I'm clueless. I'm 20 years clueless. What do you tell them? And if they're clueless, what is the first step of achieving a clarity? Right? There's nothing, there's no ground zero. How do you start achieving the clarity? That, okay, how should I, something that's a spiritual journey. How should I figure out what should I do in my life or what could I do in my life? What are my strengths, weaknesses? What is the ground zero rule of starting to figure out?
I think the usage of terminology can confuse people. I want to correct you by saying you are not clueless. You are open to a wide number of ideas. There is a big difference between them. You saying you're clueless and you saying your mind is open to ideas are two completely different points of reference. There are people who are actually clueless. Let's give that. But there are people who are exploring a number of things. Since your mind was open to creating on your own, you also figured out that you have an itch that needed to be scratched with respect to startups, which you are exploring. You wouldn't do this if you were clueless. So I think you have to give a lot more credit to where you are by not calling yourself clueless, because that is a different aspect. The number of people who are clueless or who are not aware of what they want to do is a fair number. And we want to not segregate all of them as bad or lost, etc. There is a quote by an unknown person. Sometimes you find yourself in the middle of nowhere. Sometimes in the middle of nowhere you find yourself. So sometimes it's good to be lost to find out who you really are. And when people do not know what they want to do, generally there is enough available today for you to figure out what interests you. In my generation, if at 18 or 20 I did not know what I wanted to do, I didn't like the choices that were presented to me, I'd have been told, too bad, we don't care what you think. Just do A or B or C or D or whatever. Right? So there's no choice. Eventually that led you to either hating that choice or making peace with that choice or loving that choice. Right? So that's today's generation has so much of options and opportunities that in order for you to figure out what do I really want to do, I don't know what I want to do. Do I want to be healthy, spiritual, engineering, management, etc., etc. Generally, I would say start with go a little off grid. Start with trying to read. Start with on books. A book that I would very highly recommend is The Alchemist. Absolutely random set of events that make you feel that you have something with it that is unique to yourself. So the first step of going from being clueless to getting direction is that self-belief, self-confidence. Then I would say begin a small faith-based routine. Yoga is a great step. It could be pranayama, just breathing. It could be meditation. Both of those tend to calm the mind. They just first bring you down to a point where you're knowing things are fine. Usually, your subconscious, by the time that you reach that stage, 20 to 21, you've formed a certain number of likes and dislikes in your life. Here's what I really enjoy, here's what I want to do. They will start coming up from your subconscious. This is what I enjoy doing when I was a child. I really enjoyed this subject. I really enjoyed learning about this. I like reading about this. They start then gravitating you towards directionally what interests. And from that, your first step has begun. So, the reason why I say that is, I got to that stage where I was supposedly widely successful in people's mind as a CEO or a managing director. But I felt I was lost individually because I had an identity as a CEO. But I felt like I didn't have an identity as a person. And that's why I said, what do I enjoy doing? What did I enjoy doing? I enjoyed playing tennis. I enjoyed a certain kind of genres, movies and books. I enjoyed a certain kind of faith-based work. So I said, let me at least try doing this. And they all led me to. And why did I like these kinds of books? Why did I like listening to or reading the Swami Vivekananda? Why did I? And then it just takes that turn. And you gravitate towards yoga and that journey continues. It's a lot faster than you think. I may sound like it will take years and years, but at your age it will happen soon. And you will come up and be presented with at least 2 to 3 options of what you want to do. So you and I have spoken. Many startup founders that I speak to in the 20s. I say, I'm doing the startup, but in case this doesn't work out, I don't know what I'm going to do. Why do you want to think about why it doesn't work out? Just run as long as you can run. If it maximizes or it hits its stride, great. If you feel that you need to end things or pause things, great. You walk away with so much of learning. But don't go in there and then open the blinkers out saying, what happens if this doesn't work? Don't start plan B when you're in plan A. So you will find the path. I've done it from personal experience at much later age. But if somebody is clueless, They want a way out. It's a big step forward already then. Somebody who's clueless and is fine. So, somebody who wants a way out, I would say start a small practice. Can you sit in a spot and just allow the quantum of your thoughts to flow? And then eventually see if you can direct them towards the point. That's why I always say start with meditation, start with pranayama, and have faith that there is a power higher than you. Had I had this faith or this level of faith 10 years before, I know where I would have been in terms of my evolution. So starting with that becomes a point of focus. Then it starts opening up the possibilities it has. The risk that the current generation runs with is that they want it to happen and do it. I've been meditating for 3 days, I don't see anything. Yeah. So Vishwamitra might meditate for 1,000 years to achieve something and then he has to go back and do it all over again. Because he got distracted. So don't expect immediate results for something that's taken you a fairly long time to get to. But as they say, for decades nothing happens, and then in days, decades happen. So the work keeps going on. Most of you, given your age group in the 20s, that sense of purpose will start coming in my experience within the first 3 years, 4 months. That's not a long time to find direction in terms of what you want to do. You will get inspired in some way, some spark is always there within you to be lit. And you just need that one statement or one dialogue in a movie or one line in a book. It's not like that. It's exactly how I feel. And here's what I'm going to do as a result of it. So you have all these movies where somebody's like, I don't know what's going on with my life, and then she sees something and says, that's what I need to do. So the fact that your mind is open to that possibility itself is that you're receiving these signals. And you will receive. I've received them repeatedly, I've seen people receive them repeatedly. But you want to get into that frame of focus and success. Then saying, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to lay in my dorm and eat junk or do nothing and then watch TV and play games and just be there. Then you have a problem. But if you want to, you're in a search-based mode, you will get the answer, depending on the intensity of your search. But to repeat, I would say start with faith, start with a very small practice. You can do 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. And then that will lead you to the next. 22, achieving a sense of focus and purpose within 3 to 6 months itself is a superpower. I've seen people transform. I've seen kids who are 14 who are absolute children going from wanting packet of chips every day to saying, I need to get ripped. I need to look a certain way. I want to get a chiseled face. I want to have a certain amount of protein content in my body. I've seen people go through this transformation in 4 months. So it's like you were talking to somebody from another planet just 4 months back. It's wild to see that. So it's possible very quickly. Something you have to be triggered positively by something, which means your mind has to be open. Something somebody said or something you see that takes you, gets you on the path.
The last year, it was the time when I started running as my fitness training, right? So initially, everyone, there are many less people running compared to the people going to the gym. Reason being, running is boring, as they say, that you just keep on running, keep on running. But what I learned from it was that if, let's say, I'm going to run 21 kilometers today, it is going to take me 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours, I'm with myself. I don't have to check my phone. I'm just there and controlling my breath and running. That also made a sense that I need to run slow but long.
Yeah.
And I feel that I will just, validate this statement or validate my thought which I have with me. That spirituality could be a thing which keeps you going on for long. If today I want to, let's say, make X million dollars, I know I have to work for 10, 15 years. But if I have spirituality in my regular routine, I would be sort of refreshed every day. My system gets rebooted every day. I have more energy and I have a sense of purpose rather than not doing spiritual, just eating, drinking, and working every day. So, do you think that this is a right way of thinking?
It is. It is actually you nailed it at the age that you are to have this kind of clarity in your profit. It is not the result. It is the journey. The journey is the result in most parts. I think last podcast I was colleague, ex-colleague of mine who has hit a dollar threshold. Right? There is nothing that his family cannot buy. But they're now sitting saying, okay, we've hit this threshold. What is motivating us to go beyond this? So they're trying to find out what is aspect that they're most passionate about. So the wife is interested in certain things, the husband is interested in certain things. They're focusing on that. Contrast that to I told you I worked with a couple of dollar billionaires. The bank account is ticking, but that's not what's motivating him. He's building. The journey, waking up in the morning, he's still doing this 8:30 a.m. conference calls with the press. He's doing this analysts call. He's building a new product. He's selling it in new countries. He's building a new factory. So the juice is in the journey. So yes, he was one of the youngest billionaires. He's now a 2 billionaire. He's a 3 billionaire. I'm not counting that. My journey is what excites me. And you do not need to tell him, do you mind working this Sunday? If it's required, he will. He travels on a 1-day trip for 30 hours and comes back to meet someone. You ask the person, will you travel 30 hours to meet somebody for 3 hours and come back when you want $3 million? No, why? He has to come and meet me. I want to do that, do it. So the point you made is excellent, is that the excitement is in the journey. The result is incremental only. It's incidental after a point. Once you hit certain thresholds of comfort, success, as we say, name, fame, and money. After a point, they are incidental. So the journey continues forever. Spirituality is the exact same. You're continuing the journey forever. It's not even long term, it's lifelong. So you'd be astounded to speak to some people who encounter on the spot who are 96 years old and in such spectacular health. To me, that's a life goal. They have a full 3-course meal 3 times a day at 96. Ripped in terms of physical, literally ripped. He's able to meditate, he's able to do physical things that people in the 60s would have trouble doing. To me, that's a sense of achievement that nobody can counter. So for me, those are people who I look up to in a big way. But it's a journey. They haven't achieved that at 94, just like that. They've achieved it over a period of time. There's learning, there's struggle, but they've enjoyed every minute of it. So just like running, you will eventually scale 42. You will eventually scale that 24-hour run. But guess what? You have to scale your first mile. You have to scale your second mile. You have to then scale the first mile in this time, second mile in this time. Right? So each thing is a journey. Spirituality is the same. Life is the same. You don't build relationships on day one. You build it over a period of time. You don't build careers in day one. You build it over a period of time. Spirituality is the exact same. The time that you realize it, and the sooner you realize it, you will start enjoying it so much more. And it's beautiful when you get to that point. That struggle is what you actually want. The run that you do when you are at the 7 mile mark and your capacity is 8 miles. You're thinking of going from 7 to 8. But the same mind in 6 months will not be thinking about 7 and 8. You're thinking about 14. How did that change? So that journey has been built up. So enjoy the journey. Everything is the journey. The journey. I keep telling myself, am I enjoying the day to day? Am I enjoying the day to day? When I do now, it's much easier and it's more powerful. Every meal, every conversation, every relationship, everything that you do has a lot more purpose to it.